Welcome to the Midwest Marvel Podcast. On today's episode, we're turning the podcast into the Midwest DC Podcast. I am your host, Midwest DC guy today, Nick Adams, along with my co-host, the man who is rumored to be playing the next Superman, Zeke Farnsworth.
Hey, man. James Gunn is more strict than Kevin Feige. You're not supposed to let that stuff out. He's literally going to send Idris Elba after me.
I feel like Gunn
I'm
would
dead.
be a complete no-nonsense dude when it comes to that stuff. I don't know. So, I know Gunn is a goofy guy and a funny dude with a great sense of humor. But I don't know. Just something about him makes me feel like when people slip up, I have to imagine, Gunn just turns into this terrifying dude. I don't know. He just has an intimidating look about him. He just looks like a guy I want to be friends with you, but also I don't want to piss you off.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know why he gives me that vibe, but I feel like...
Yeah, if you're part of the DCEU going forward, it's going to be like an NBA contract. If you slip up, you're getting fined.
Right.
If you say something, getting fined.
Dude, honestly, I feel like Feige needs to implement that because it's getting out of hand with Marvel. It used to be so lax, and now everyone's just Tom Holland got away with it, and he's still alive, and Mark Ruffalo got away with it, and he's still alive, and everyone's just like, oh, okay, we can do... Mark Ruffalo literally spoils Endgame, and the whole movie, and... just let him walk free. So
they really did. He didn't get enough. He didn't get enough of a slap on the wrist. But I mean, I think things going forward now are pretty tight knit.
Yeah, except for the fact that the whole freaking Ant-Man the Quantumania script got leaked somehow.
Yeah, but that
which
wasn't
intentional. But
yeah,
but still, I'm like, bro,
intentional.
Get your house in order, Marvel. What's going on?
Yeah. We're gonna start seeing some DC actors be like Marshawn Lynch. I'm here so I don't get fined.
Yeah, this is why we're switching to the DC podcast. We're tired of the leaks of Marvel. No, I'm kidding. But today, actually, so we are. If you've been living under a rock in the last week, DC actually had a massive event on, I believe it was Monday, where James Gunn and Peter Safran, the two co-CEOs of DC Studios, released their entire slate for what they're calling Chapter 1. So basically the Phase 1 like Marvel had, this is the complete reboot and lineup for DC's Chapter 1. And they went into pretty great detail about it. There are 10 projects that they're going to do, 5 movies and 5 TV shows, all fitting within Chapter 1. And so there's not a whole lot going on Marvel-wise.
Yeah,
to really talk about. We thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about DC. Plus, at the end of the day, yeah, it's the Midwest Marvel Podcast, but realistically, we're just nerds, and so I don't have any gripes whatsoever with DC. I actually love DC. Loved it when I was a kid. I just ended up getting more into Marvel because they handled the media side of things when it came to movies and TV so much better than DC has in the last 20 years. So yeah, and I feel like everybody's gotten that way. Everybody gravitated toward Marvel because they were just so much smarter about it. So, but realistically, I want DC to thrive. I hope they do, because if DC thrives, it's more fun content to
sift through.
Yeah, to sift through. And if DC thrives, it's going to push Marvel to continue to thrive as well. Marvel will have no room to slack. Some people feel like they slacked during Phase 4. I don't really think that they did. But regardless, it's going to force Marvel to step up. So I hope for good things for them. But
yeah, me too. I mean, DC's still got some of them, out of the top 5 most popular superheroes, I think DC still has 2 or 3 of those.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. When it came to comics, until the Marvel Studios projects started coming out, DC characters are the more recognizable and iconic prior to the MCU. You got Batman and Superman alone are 1 and 2.
Yep.
I don't think any other Marvel character is overtaking either of them in terms of just global popularity and recognizability. Is that a word? I think those guys are 1 and 2.
And Spider-Man's probably the 3rd.
Yeah. Spider-Man is up there for sure, and you can make an argument that he could be in one of those spots. I still think it probably goes to those two, but yeah, Spider-Man is easily up there. He's top 3 no matter what.
Yeah. I think he's the only Marvel character that like rivals that
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. You got
recognizability.
yeah. I don't know which other one would. I mean, today people would say, "Oh, you got Iron Man or Captain America," but back before the MCU started, that wasn't the case.
Yeah,
Like
maybe
Iron Man was
Fantastic
not a
Four.
household name. Yeah, Iron Man wasn't a household name. Captain America was just like kind of boring to a lot of people, and
Right.
Chris Evans really made him cool. But yeah, man, I'm excited for DC. So here's what we're gonna do today. This episode is perfect if you're somebody you just want to know more about what DC has got going on and what's coming down the pike for them. This is perfect because we're going to give a rundown of all of Chapter 1, talking about each individual movie just briefly because we don't know that much about them, but
Hmm.
just talking about them and maybe what we can expect or what our thoughts are about it, and just talking about DC in general and kind of our expectations and giving some commentary on what's coming up for them. But I thought it'd
Yeah.
be good to start with this. So we talk about Marvel all the time, and everybody who listens to the podcast or watches on YouTube knows who our favorite characters are, or some of our favorite characters. They know you're a Spider-Man geek.
Yep.
I love Black Panther. He's probably one of my top favorite
We're
characters.
both Moon Knight geeks.
Yep, massive movie like
Yep.
Daredevil. Everybody knows our favorite superheroes. For Marvel, DC characters is not the case, and I'll be like, I actually don't know your favorite DC character. You probably don't know mine because I don't know if I've ever said it. So I thought it'd be cool to talk about our favorite DC character.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
maybe
Like a top three or something like that.
not even necessarily top three because I mean you could give one, but I just know who my top one is, and it was the same character that I loved when I was a kid, and the same character that I still like when I was an adult. And I'm not really unique in this by any means, but my favorite DC character is easily Batman.
Oh yeah.
I've always loved Batman. When I was a kid, I had all the Batman action. I had like 4 different Batmobiles, toy Batmobiles. I watched all the Batman movies. I had all the Batman action figures and the Batman villain action figures, and watched the
Hmm.
Batman animated series like clockwork. Like, dude, I was Batman all day. And
All day.
yep, all day, every day.
Yep.
100% my favorite character.
He's in my top three
Okay.
for sure. My first favorite is because of the CW show, The
The
Flash.
Flash. See,
Yeah.
I need to get more acquainted with the Flash. I haven't seen the CW Flash. I loved the Flash in Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is
Yeah, he
unfortunate
was good
because
too.
because Ezra Miller is giving us a real life preview of what GTA 6 is going to look like.
Right, for real.
Although James Gunn did say, because that movie's still coming out, The Flash, and James
Yeah.
Gunn has said that he believes that The Flash is one of the greatest superhero movies ever created, which at this point, I have to believe that that's true, because why else would this movie still be coming out?
Right.
It had it
It's gotta
has
be
to be
good.
insane. You know,
Yeah.
like for Ezra Miller to literally be kidnapping people, robbing people, whatever the heck else he's been doing, I forget, because there's a laundry list of like 15 things, and they're still like, it's okay, Ezra, we're still gonna release the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
They're
dude,
like,
it's gotta be
it's too
insane.
good.
Yeah, it's gotta be
It's too
insane.
good.
But yeah, sorry, yeah, I went on a tangent, but yeah, so the Flash
No,
is your
you're good.
favorite character.
Yeah. And then probably like next would be Batman, classic,
Okay,
Christian
yeah,
Bale. And then third, Dr. Fate. Since I saw him in
underrated.
Black Adam, I'd been watching a lot of like YouTube videos, doing a lot of research on him. Super cool character, like really cool concept and everything that goes into
Yeah,
the character and the helmet and the magic behind it. It's super cool, and I'd like to see more of him in the MCU or in the DCEU. This is not the MCU. It's
just have
not
to
the
catch
MCU.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah, I still
but
need to see
yeah,
Black Adam. Actually,
it's
it's on my list.
it's a good action movie. It very much reminds me in terms of like enjoyability is like Transformers, where you're
Okay,
like,
just yeah,
this
bunch of
is
explosions,
sweet.
bunch of fighting.
This is you see The Rock and yeah, a bunch of fighting, and all that.
You're gonna be entertained at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
is it fantastic cinema? No. Are you gonna be entertained? Absolutely.
Yep,
Which, you know
exactly.
what?
It's
I'm fine with that. That's how the Fast and
yeah.
the Furious movies are. I understand that those movies are ridiculous. They went to space in the last one. But you know what? Those movies are fun. They are a blast.
The so Fun fact about me, I have not seen a single Fast and Furious movie.
Bro,
So
what? Hold on.
every every time people talk about it,
What?
I always laugh because I'm like, dude, how in the world? Because I saw a TikTok about it and it was
Dog.
like the the dude that Ludacris plays, he's like
Yeah,
a
Tej.
shop owner, and then like 4 movies later, he's like hacking into the Pentagon.
Yes. He's, bro, so I'm telling you, it's an amazing movies. How have you not seen any of them? Dude, you got to
I
start,
don't
man.
know.
I think they're on
Somewhere,
HBO Max. I think they are.
no, I think you're right. They are. I think I've just skipped past them.
Bro,
I've
I,
got a
I made
few.
Carly watch all of them.
Really?
Like last year, yeah, dude, we sat down and we watched in the last like 2 years. We watched all of them from one. We actually skipped two. Two sucks. Well, two's kind of funny to me. She would have hated two. It's a terrible movie, but I kind of feel like you have to watch two. But I
Yeah.
didn't want to make her suffer through it. But
Yeah. I
the
mean,
rest of
I'm
them are
definitely
great,
gonna watch through all of them.
dude. They're so much fun. I like you. You literally will enjoy the heck out of yourself. I don't know, man. How have you not seen those? What great. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, it starts out as just movies about drag racing and they turn into like literally the freaking Suicide Squad. Just, yeah,
Vin
it's,
Diesel can't get enough, man. He needs an
bro.
extra paycheck here and there. So he's
Yeah.
like, hey, another Fast and Furious coming out,
That's
apparently.
so funny. You've never seen that. Okay. So we know our favorite DC characters now. What about favorite former DC projects? Whether like, maybe give two choices for this. Your favorite DC project that's like a little bit older, and your favorite for like recent DC project. So,
Okay, I can
uh,
do that.
mine's super easy. So my favorite older DC project is, again, I'm not unique in this at all, but it's a Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is
Yeah,
probably like my favorite film of all time. Period. And I mean, it's one of the greatest films ever made. Period. I mean, and there's no argument to that. Really, it's
right.
it's just insane. I do think it's the best Batman film. I loved the Batman. The Batman is incredible,
Yeah,
and it's probably my favorite recent DC project. That and like Peacemaker's probably up there. That was such a good show. But yeah, The Dark Knight is just so stinking good. And Heath Ledger, Christian
yeah,
Bale, yeah, so
yeah.
good.
Just to, that would probably also be mine. But I do have one that like and for like more like nostalgic purposes that I'll put right up there next to it. The
Yeah.
Superman Returns
Oh, okay.
with Brandon Ruth
Okay.
as Superman.
Yeah, dude.
That one's a classic old DC movie where I was like, this is actually a good Superman movie.
There's something to be said about nostalgia.
Yeah. And then like a more recent one, Shazam's pretty good. So is Black
Shazam
Adam.
is fun, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for the next one coming out. I am.
Wait, so you would
That's
put those above the Batman?
no, no.
Oh, okay.
I was just giving a different answer.
Oh, gotcha. I see.
Like,
Okay, that's
yeah.
fair. No, that's fair.
I would, however, put probably Zack Snyder's Justice League above the Batman.
That's fair. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a solid movie too. It's a little too long for me, which I understand why it was long.
Hmm.
I get it, but yeah, I mean the Batman was long too. That movie is stinking 3 hours. It's
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Long
Like the
movie.
Batman versus the Dark Knight, dude. Listen, I understand it. Some people have a preference of the Batman over the Dark Knight, and I don't fault
Yeah.
anybody for that. But for me, it comes down to rewatchability. And the Batman, it is
Right.
rewatchable, and I will rewatch it. But man, like upon rewatch, normally I'll love a movie way more when I watch a movie the second time. For the Batman, I just didn't. I didn't dislike it more. I was just like, yeah, this is good, but also like super, super long. And a Dark Knight, I've
Yeah.
watched that movie like 50 times.
And the Batman, it's a like it's a little dark. So like if you have one of the personalities that like things like affect you a little more, like me, like for me,
Yeah,
I kind of get bummed out by the end of it,
yeah,
and I'm like, like it was good, but like I was
yeah. It's
like,
not a movie to
oh
like
man,
watch and lift you up, and yeah,
right.
it's I totally get that. Okay, so let's talk before we get into the list of all the projects. Let's just talk about James Gunn and DC and Peter Safran as well. But I mean, like James Gunn is the creative mind and kind of the face of everything. Peter Safran is more behind the scenes when it comes to how DC studios operate. But the big question is Is Gunn the right man for the job? I think the answer is a resounding yes at this point. But let's just like spend a couple minutes talking about our thoughts on why we feel like Gunn is the right man for the job, and how we think he'll succeed in that role. And then any questions or concerns. I don't really have any concerns personally, but any questions that may come to mind. But as far as being right for the job, Gunn is like, I've seen a surprising amount of people, DC fans, who don't like Gunn being in this spot. And it is super head scratching to me because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who else you want for that spot. Like, James Gunn is a massive nerd. Like, this dude and
Right.
Feige are cut from the same. Like, Kevin Feige is a super nerd. He knows everything about anything Marvel. Like, the dude is ridiculously knowledgeable. James Gunn is the same way.
Yeah.
He reads comic books like every single day. He knows so much about just comics in general, whether it's DC or Marvel, which I feel like you have to be a super nerd to make the projects that he's made, right? Because he's made projects about characters like Peacemaker, who is literally one of the most obscure random characters in DC.
Right.
The Guardians of the Galaxy were a team of characters that nobody knew about unless you were a hardcore Marvel fan prior to them coming to the screen. Like, I thought that movie looked so dumb when I saw the first trailer for it. I was like, I'm not seeing this piece of crap. And then I watched it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is one of the most amazing movies I've ever
Yeah.
seen. But like, I feel like you have to be a super nerd to be able to bring those characters to life
Oh,
and
definitely.
then succeed with it. And like, Gunn's done that. So yeah, I feel like he's the right man for the job, and he hasn't missed. Gunn is
No,
literally
definitely.
never missed. Guardians, Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, all certified bangers. Literally not a bad project that man has made when it comes to comic book stuff.
Yeah. He's good at he does what he does and he's good at it. You
Yeah,
know? Like there's you can't even deny it. Like even if
no,
like you're one of the DC people, I've heard that people would like uh Zack Snyder to try to, but I'm like he's not like yeah, he'd
yeah,
probably do a good job, but I don't think he would do near as a good job as Gunn would.
no, yeah, no. I think I understand that Snyder is also good at what he does, and I'm not saying I'm with you. I'm not saying we do a bad job. The Snyder fanboys are weird to me though.
Yeah.
There's a weird, and if you're one of them, I'm sorry. We like that you're here on the show, and honestly, email me and let me know like what the attraction is, because but I get that he's made good films. I'm not saying he hasn't, but also like I feel like Snyder. I don't even want to. It's like Snyder fans, they'll die for that man. There's a weird attraction there, and
For yeah.
defense of him when it comes to his films, and yeah, them wanting him to be in James Gunn's spot. So yeah, I don't
You
know.
know, and here's the thing with James Gunn. We'll probably get a few Zack Snyder films out of him.
Right, like Gunn's a smart guy,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, again, I think Gunn definitely has a certain direction and view for what he wants this new universe to be. But I mean, he's already talked about Ben Affleck directing a film, and Ben Affleck has ties to the old universe. So clearly, he has no qualms with allowing anybody who's in the previous universe to somehow have an involvement. Any questions or concerns that come to mind with Gunn running the show for DC?
I don't really have any like questions or concerns
Yeah,
other
yeah,
than
there are.
like mostly just like who are you gonna bring in to because like we all know Henry Cavill is not gonna be Superman anymore.
Right,
Um, the Batman Robert Pattinson is not gonna be the Batman of this universe. So
right.
like, what type of actors are you gonna bring? Are you gonna bring in some no names and make them names, or are you gonna bring in some names and keep them names?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see because, yeah, Marvel's kind of done. Marvel's gone both ways with that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I. What is nice is that for people who, we'll talk about this in a second, but for people who love the Batman and the Joker movies, like those are still going to be a thing, and there's going to be room for those to exist, which is great. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They're not going to be the lead Batman for the actual main canonical universe. So yeah, I'm curious to
Yeah.
see who he'll get. And I would imagine we're going to find out about those decisions somewhat quick
Oh yeah, definitely.
because those movies are on the slate for chapter 1. My only question with Gunn is that will he be able to like creatively deviate from his very specific, very unique style that is very much tied to him for the projects that he has control over. So obviously he's not going to have a hand in like every single project intricately when it comes to just style. I think he'll let, if someone's directing a movie, he's going to let them do their thing. But he is writing the Superman movie. I don't know if he's
Yeah.
directing it or not. I'm sure he's going to direct some stuff. But my question will be, is he going to imprint his style in all of those movies that he direct? Like, I don't know that I see Gunn's style fitting super well with the Superman movie. And I could be wrong because James Gunn has proven me wrong before. So I could
Hmm.
very much be dead wrong. But I just don't know that his style fits a Superman movie super well. So the question
Right.
is is he going to impose his will and his style on that film, or will he change, like flex with that and change his style a little bit to fit what like a Superman movie might need? I don't know.
I just have one more thought, and it's that I feel like it's going to cause a little bit of a division within like DCU fans and just like movie fans, superhero fans in general, where we're going to look at this new Batman and this new Joker and new Superman, and we're going to look at the old ones, like Robert Pattinson and Christian Bale, and then Joaquin Phoenix, and then the new Joker and the Robert Pattinson's Batman. Like we're
Okay,
gonna
so
have
you're talking within like between universes. So like they got the new Superman movie, or they got the new Batman movie coming up, but then they're
yeah.
also going to have like the Batman that's already existed,
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah,
people
exactly.
making comparisons and debating that.
Right. That, and it's going to be like a little confusing for people who are like, "Oh, I want to
Not
get in the
hardcore.
DCEU."
Yeah,
And then they jump in and like, "Wait, so this Batman's not part of it, but this Batman is?" Like,
yeah.
where does Ben Affleck fit into all this? And we're like, "Nowhere," you know?
Where's Christian Bale? Why is he not here?
Yeah.
Is Michael
It's like
Keaton still Batman?
exactly where we're like who is who? Like I like that they're establishing, we're going to get into a little bit later when we talk about Elseworlds, where we have something
Yeah,
outside of the main continuity, but still having that thing outside of the main continuity is still going to cause a little bit, because you're going to have fanboys of just that and
yeah.
not the continuity.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
Not that anything's wrong with that, but
Right.
it's going to
Yeah.
be confusing.
Yeah. No. Rumor has it that they're still talking about trying to somehow bring Keaton and his Batman back into DC, which I'm like, I'd be so curious because yeah, I love Michael Keaton, so I would love to see that man suit up again as Batman. His Batman movie with him and Jack Nicholson, and then he had the Batman Returns with Danny DeVito as the Penguin.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
so
And that is a
so
pretty good
good.
one.
But Batman, the first Batman with him though is fantastic for what it is. It's such a completely different vibe than any of the Batman movies we have now. But for what it was when it was created, it's great, and I would be all for seeing a Batverse and having Keaton brought back in to the
Yep.
fold.
Get a Spider-Verse and a Batverse going.
Dude, yeah, please. Like, can we bring back Christian Bale for a little bit? Like, just give us all the Batmans. Shoot, man. Even give us, like, bring back George Clooney and the Bat nipples, dude. bring back, make it a hashtag. Bring back Bat nipples.
Hashtag bring back Batman.
Oh man. All
Oh
right.
shoot.
Let's get into the slate of chapter 1. So chapter 1 is going to be known as Gods and Monsters, which, side note, isn't that the title of the, I need to look this up. Isn't that the title of Moon Knight's season finale? Wasn't it Gods and Monsters?
It might be.
I swore it was, or I swore it was something very similar to that because I heard that. Bro, it is. Yeah, Gods and
It
Monsters.
is. Yeah.
That's the title of episode 6. You copycats.
Yeah. At
Yeah.
first, in my head, I have that associated with DC somewhere. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it is a very DC thing, but yeah,
yeah.
that Marvel
Oh,
obviously
you
used
know
that for Moon
what?
Knight. But yeah,
I think it's in Ultimate Alliance. Is
okay.
it with the video game?
I'm not familiar with the games, but you could be right. But yeah. But anyway, so phase one, not phase one. That's not correct. Chapter one will basically serve as DC's phase one, will consist of 10 movies. I want to say it's over the course of like 5 or 10 years. I can't remember the actual, that can't be right, but it's over the course of a while. I mean, 10,
Yeah.
5 movies, 5 shows, and yeah, we're just going to go through each one and just briefly talk about it and just talk about our thoughts. So kicking off everything is going to be Superman Legacy, which is a movie. We're going to actually do all 5 movies first, and then we'll do the 5 shows. But Superman Legacy is going to be a Superman movie. It's written by James Gunn, or will be written by James Gunn. It's going to be the complete start to the DCEU reboot. And the focus for this movie, it's not going to be an origin story. And Gunn was very clear on that when he was talking about it. No origin story here. We've seen that a bunch of times. This movie's going to focus on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Very interested in this. In that sense, just hearing the description and the way that Gunn describes the movie, I can see some of James Gunn's humor working into that because I think he'll find the funny aspects of Superman trying to balance being Kryptonian with being human, because I think there's definitely comedy to be had there.
Oh, definitely.
And the one misconception people have about Superman is that Superman is this dry character, because that's what we've seen with Henry Cavill. And again, that's not Henry Cavill's fault, because that's the role that he was tasked to play. But in the comics and like shows, Superman is not a dry character. He's a normal dude who just happens to be like invincible, basically. And for whatever reason, DCEU decided they wanted to portray him as this like robotic, emotionless character. That's not who Superman is. So I'll be really curious to see Gunn's take on him. I'm probably the most excited for this out of all the movies, I think, in DC Chapter 1. Even though I'm a Batman fan and there's a Batman movie, but I'm probably most excited for Superman.
Yeah, because we finally get to see him, like you said, not as more of a robotic and not as I don't know, stoic, I guess.
Yeah,
he's just kind of
stoic's
like
a good word.
there, and you're like,
yeah,
bro, we know you're funny. Like you be doing like in the what is that? The cartoon, DC. What is it? I forget the name of it. Yeah, but he's got some jokes like with I can't wait to see like a good Batman Superman quip at each other. Like that'll be fun.
And not something that's so dark. I think that's going to be the advantage to the DCEU moving forward. Like, it's still going to have room for stuff that wants to be dark. But somehow, and I don't know how I got on this train. Honestly, it might be the Dark Knight's fault, if we're being honest. Like, the Dark Knight was such a dark series of films, that trilogy, which was perfect for what it was. Like, that was the way it needed to be, the way that Nolan did it. But I kind of feel like from that point on, everyone was just like, oh, this is what DC is. DC is dark. Marvel is more light, because Iron Man came out at the same time. And so like there was a clear contrast between the two.
Yeah.
And at that point, I just feel like every DC project was always dark, and every Marvel project was always much more lighthearted and could still walk into the dark, but didn't have to stay there. For whatever reason, I feel like DC just felt like it had to stay dark. And it just got like, it got old. I'm like, dude, I'm tired of like like you said, I'm tired of like the dark, dreary films. Like, give me something more upbeat. Like, because comic books can be dark, but a lot of them are also very upbeat. And I think Gunn coming in and rebooting this, I think you'll have a good balance of the two.
Yeah, same here.
So the second movie, which I'm also extremely excited about, and I know nothing about it, but it just sounds really cool, is called The Authority. So The Authority is essentially a group of superheroes who basically just think of them like the Avengers or the Justice League, but if the Avengers or the Justice League just did not care what they did in terms of what they had to do to make things right in the world and do what they believe is right. So they're not villains, but they're superheroes that don't have the moral high ground of like, oh, we're not going to kill anybody, or like we have to be really careful about how we go about this. No, like the Authority apparently just doesn't care. as long as they get the job done, they'll use whatever extreme methods they need to in order to protect the planet. And I think that that's honestly a really interesting concept
Oh yeah.
for a movie, and I feel like that could be a massive hit.
Oh yeah. I think it will be too. It kind of like since it is DC, we kind of have that likelihood of it falling into the darker vein, like we were talking about earlier.
That one I could
Where
see being dark. I could also see it being
yeah,
funny though. Like again, I feel like there's room for
it's,
comedy in all this, but yeah, could definitely
yeah,
be much more dark and intense.
I imagine it's gonna be like a kind of like a Thunderbolts type team, you
Yeah,
know, but
yeah.
for like the DC, so it's like it could be a little darker.
Yeah. Except with the Thunderbolts and the Suicide Squad, they're both kind of run by somebody. Where it sounds like the
Yeah,
Authority are just running themselves. Like they're the
yeah,
ones running the show.
right.
I do
Which
wonder,
would,
and I
yeah.
have no knowledge to this, so I know there's an answer out there. I just don't know what the answer is. But I wonder if there's any and will be any clashing of like the Authority and the Justice League when that becomes a thing in Gunn's universe.
Hmm.
Because again, the Justice League has their moral standing and their moral compass, whereas the Authority doesn't seem to. Is there going to be a butting of heads where the Justice League is like, hey, you guys need to chill in how you guys are handling this stuff, and the Authority is just like, no, like we have the balls to take care of business and you guys don't. um
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see, yeah, how that goes.
I wanna know what like type of characters are in the Authority. Like, do we know these people?
I
Are
start
these here?
I don't. I started to do a deep dive, and it actually was a much greater deep dive than what I was willing to do leading up to the podcast because I was doing it like 10 minutes before, and I was like, yeah, I don't have time for this. So I'm going to look into it later. But it's been made up of a lot of different characters over the course of
Oh,
time.
gotcha.
So yeah, it just depends on which version you're apparently looking at and talking about. The third movie is one that again I'm extremely interested in, which is Batman: The Brave and the Bold. And I think the actual technical title is just The Brave and the Bold. I don't, but it's the Batman movie. And
Hmm.
so this movie is going to feature Batman and his son Damian Wayne, who will end up playing Robin. Well, who people assume will be playing Robin, which I think is going to be the case. In the comics, the story that this is based off of, Batman's son is raised by Talia al Ghul in secret. So she,
Yeah.
if you remember in The Dark Knight Rises, she's the one who ended up betraying Batman because she was Ra's al Ghul's daughter and he didn't know it. But yeah, so in the comics, she raises a son in secret. And so he starts out as an adversary to Batman and he ends up joining Batman's side, presumably because he's a son. And Batman does eventually die in that storyline, fighting Darkseid, and
Hmm.
Dick Grayson, who was Robin at the time, becomes Batman, and then Damian Wayne, his
Damian.
son, becomes Robin. Now, I don't know that that's what's going to happen here. It may happen eventually, but that's a super interesting storyline. But I'm just glad they're bringing Robin back.
Yeah, same here. Because we had oh, what's his name? The actor.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt in
Yeah,
The Dark
Joseph
Knight.
Gordon-Levitt. I feel like he would have been a good Robin.
If they had to continue that story, yeah, I would have loved to have seen him as Robin. And I know that was not like some people were upset about that because it definitely was not like like the traditional origins for Robin.
Yeah.
They just I feel like it was more of an Easter egg than anything.
Yeah,
But
probably. Yeah.
but I still liked it. And yeah, I'm with you. I would have loved to have seen. I know it was a fitting end for the trilogy, so it's fine that we didn't get another one. But I would have loved to have seen a fourth movie with him as Robin.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. And I'm excited to see like a Dick Grayson in
Yeah.
on the screen
Yep.
and like a Damian Wayne as well. Like just seeing like the type of like live like costumes that they use because like in all
Yeah.
reality the Robin costume's not like that cool.
Dude, I like literally I thought the same thing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be really interested to see what they do with the costume, and I'm sure they'll kill it. But yeah, because the Robin costume is pretty goofy when it comes down to it. So
Yeah.
how are they gonna adapt that in a way that's still like there's the challenge, right? Because right now the trend, which I think it's the right trend, is making things comic accurate. Marvel's killing it in that department. They're making all their suits comic accurate, but still making sure that they look good And so I feel like that pressure is going to be on DC too. Like, you guys got to make your suits comic accurate, but like uh Robin's comic accurate suit makes him look like a freaking gymnast. So
Yeah.
what and like there's nothing wrong with gymnastics, but like I don't feel like my superhero needs to be dressed like he's ready to go do the parallel bars for Team USA.
You say right.
So
Like,
yeah, I'm gonna be curious to see what that costume looks like.
yeah, same here. And like the DC, I think like comic wise has a lot of the cooler costumes, to be honest. Like the
They have
sleeker
some, yeah,
ones at
they have
least.
some really
They have
sick
some
outfits,
sick
dude.
ones.
Yeah,
Like the Batman, like all
Batman's just
black with the red.
iconic, dude.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah, Batman's is iconic. Like Flash honestly has a really
Yeah.
dope like I like Flash's outfit. Yeah, I'm gonna be interested, but I'm with you. I'm really glad Robin's coming to the big screen.
Hmm.
It's so weird to me that Robin has been so neglected in mainstream Batman films. Because Robin is such a massive part of the Batman comics, like a literal main character, and the dude is just like cast
Nope.
aside for like so many Batman films. I'm like why does this dude keep getting left out? So yeah, I'm excited for him to finally get his due.
I bet that we probably don't even. I bet he probably doesn't even become Robin in this first Batman movie in the continuity. I bet
Well,
it sets him up as it. I bet.
I'll be interested to see, because Gunn also alluded to the fact that this also will not be an origin story. So it sounds like we're gonna pick
Oh,
up, like, Batman will have been well into his career by the time this movie starts. So yeah, who
mhm.
knows? Half the storyline could already be done, and so he could be Robin by that point. Or yeah, maybe it's a kind of coming of age type story for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. The next movie is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I admit I don't know hardly anything about Supergirl or a lot of DC characters, if I'm being completely honest. But especially Supergirl. I know there's a Supergirl show that people like. I've never seen it. I know nothing about the show, so I'm not going to speak on it and act like I do. I should watch it because I've heard it's pretty good. But the movie is described as a science fiction adventure focusing on Supergirl and her uh, life on Krypton and just kind of how that affected her. Gunn basically described it as a much more hardcore Supergirl portrayal than fans are used to seeing. And again, I don't know the comparison because I haven't seen the actual show, but it sounds like she's going to be super hardened by what she's experienced on Krypton because she's actually grown up there, whereas Superman grows up on Earth and he doesn't experience the horrors that happen
Right.
on Krypton. And so there's going to be a clear contrast in the two characters. So again, I mean, it sounds cool. I don't know if you know anything about Supergirl, but I don't. I'm
I
excited to
don't
see it.
know anything about
Yep.
Supergirl. Like I tried to watch the show just because I wanted to like because I was watching the CW Flash and I made it quite a few seasons in that. I did not finish it, but
I heard it got
once they
worse as it went on.
it it did. It like you got the same it was the same thing. It was like Barry, you need to get faster. Okay, I'll get faster. And it was very like Dragon Ball Z-esque where it was like, oh, this guy's stronger and faster and bigger and badder. And I
Yeah.
have to get stronger and faster and bigger and
Yeah.
badder.
Just kind of
So
rinse, wash, repeat, like that whole, like,
yeah,
just the same cycle.
right. But Dragon Ball Z is way better.
Yeah. I feel like most people would agree with that. Yeah. So you got Supergirl, and then the last movie, the fifth movie that we have confirmed is Swamp Thing. So Swamp Thing is DC's equivalent to the MCU's or Marvel's Man Thing. If you watched Werewolf by Night, Man Thing was featured in that and was arguably the best part of that show. And I'm super pumped to
Mhm.
see more of Ted, aka Man Thing, in the MCU.
Me too.
Fun
Because
fact.
they
Oh,
actually made
good.
him look good. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he looked fantastic. It was because I'm pretty sure it was both practical and CGI effects for him. Yeah, it looked super good. But fun fact, we actually looked this up right before the podcast. So we were wondering what came first, Man Thing or Swamp Thing, because when you look at the origin story, they're so similar, like almost identical, and obviously there's some differences, but like the basis is the same. Like, dude experiments on himself or gets experimented on and ends up in a swamp and kind of merges with the life within the swamp to become this like other like worldly being that is sentient and has like all his thoughts and feelings that he had as a human, but now he's this swamp monster. Like
Yeah.
literally, I could have just described the plot for either or the origin for either one of those, but it turns out that Marvel's Man-Thing came out 2 months prior to DC's Swamp Thing. They made their comic debuts just 2 months apart. Man-Thing was in May, and I forget what year, but Swamp Thing was in July. So kind of funny little tidbit there. Here's what's interesting about this. This movie is rumored. I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but I think it's pretty close to being confirmed. Rumored to be directed by Jamie Mangold. If that name doesn't ring a bell, that's the same guy who directed Logan. Fantastic, amazing film. Ford versus Ferrari. I haven't actually seen that one, and I'm ashamed to say that because I've heard that film is insane.
I haven't either, and I really want
I've
to.
heard nothing but good things, and I haven't avoided seeing it. I just haven't gotten around to it. The new Indiana Jones movie he's directing, so like, dude's solid director.
He's got some hits out there.
Yeah, he's got some certified bangers, and so yeah, excited to see him do that one. So starting with the shows, the first show is called Creature Commandos. This is actually going to be an animated show. It's a 7-episode animated show where Amanda Waller, who is the kind of director, like the leader of the Suicide Squad, and is played by Viola Davis in the DC projects. She creates a Black Ops team, much like Suicide Squad, but out of just monstrous prisoners. So like, if you've seen Suicide Squad, Weasel is at the start of Suicide Squad, like the literal like walking
that was
weasel.
Sad. That was sad,
bro.
man.
But yo, he ends up being alive though because the post-credit scene for Suicide Squad, he like you think he drowned and died, which is so funny. And also, yeah, sad, but like they literally just watch him drown. Like, what the heck? But yeah, he's alive. So Weasel's gonna be in it, and that's actually gonna be portrayed by James Gunn's brother, Sean Gunn, who, for anybody who doesn't know Sean Gunn, he is Kraglin in the Guardians of the Galaxy films. So also for any Gilmore Girls fans, Sean Gunn is in Gilmore Girls like every episode. He's one of the main characters in that, and I only know that because my wife went through and watched that, and I ended up getting into it. It's actually not a bad show, but that's how I knew him. And then I saw him in Guardians. I was like, yo. It's same dude.
Sean Gunn.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Again, yeah, I don't know much about it other than it's an animated show. I know nothing of these creatures, but
me either. I like that it's animated though.
I know I'm going to be
really
really
nice
interested.
to throw an animated show in there.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing too that I didn't mention. Gunn was very clear in the fact that the DC universe is going to have their animation tied directly into their live action. So if there ends up being like more animated, like Batman stuff, whoever does the voice for Batman will be the same guy that plays Batman in like The Brave and the Bold. Same thing for like Superman projects or like these, like Amanda Waller will be voiced by Viola Davis, and her character, like it will be canonical. Whatever happens in that show is going to be
that.
tied to. Yeah, I know that's going to be really interesting because Marvel does not have it's not quite the same, although they're doing it a little bit with What If.
I mean, they didn't have the same people voice them.
No,
I don't think.
No. Some they did for some of them, but yeah, not all of them. And it's tied in some ways, like we saw some of the What If characters in Multiverse of Madness, but and it remains to be seen how much more is canonical with that as the MCU goes on. The next show is the one of them that I'm interested in, just called Waller. So it's Viola Davis returning as Amanda Waller, and I don't know the actual storyline. I know James Gunn said that this is going to feature Team Peacemaker, so probably Harcourt, and I can't remember the guy's name who Peacemaker always makes fun of him for dyeing his beard. But yeah, Team Peacemaker is going to be in that. It's going to be written by the writers of Watchmen and Supernatural, two films that like are dearly loved. And
I've never
according,
seen Supernatural, but I have seen
I
the
haven't
last
either,
one.
but I've heard Supernatural is great. But according to Gunn, it's the best of the DC shows. So Viola Davis kills it in any role. Did you see Woman King by chance?
I have not. I wanted to.
Dude, that was
I'm
a
waiting for it to come out
phenomenal
on.
movie.
Was it?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a great movie, dude. Well worth a watch. If you guys listening, go
Yeah.
watch Woman King if you haven't seen it.
I think Viola Davis was almost Okoye.
Really? That
Yeah.
would have been interesting. I can't pronounce. I always forget the actress's name who plays Okoye now. Unfortunately, she's so good. So I'm glad we got her. But yeah, man, Viola Davis. That would have been so interesting because obviously she would have killed it.
Yeah.
Man, interesting. Fun. That's a fun fact. I might have to make a TikTok video on that one. Uh, so yeah, Waller is coming out. The next one sounds like, honestly, like this has James Gunn written all over it. I don't know if he's directing this next show or not. I feel like he needs to because it just sounds like
Yeah.
something that he would do. But it's called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is basically an imposter superhero, and the way that Peter Safran described him is that he is a loser from the future who uses basic technology to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. Uh, Dude was born in the 25th century, and they obviously had much more futuristic technology than we have and advanced technology, and he uses a time machine to go back to the 21st century so that he can use his futuristic abilities to amass great fame and fortune. This show sounds hilarious.
It sounds. I feel like it's gonna be funny. I hope they pick a good, like, funny actor for that.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, I know Chris Pratt is forever gonna be Peter Quill, but I feel like Chris Pratt would kill this role.
Dude, James Gunn has said that he's trying to bring in Guardians actors into the like he wants to bring DC or Guardians actors to the DCU. Who knows, man?
So
Maybe
maybe
that's Chris Pratt's role.
I just I really think, like, with what we know about that show, I think Chris Pratt would kill it, and I think
I
it'd be hilarious.
I agree. I think that would be a great fit. Um, yeah, I'll be interested to see because we know for sure that Dave Bautista is done as Drax. Like he's confirmed that.
Yeah.
Which again, like, well, I was gonna say I don't know how he gets away with that, but it's Dave Bautista. Like that's one of the few actors you're not challenging because Dave Bautista would just tear you apart. So
Yeah.
Feige's probably like, dude, you know what? You can spoil Kang Dynasty if you want, and I'm gonna let you go. Like,
Yeah.
just please don't eat me. Uh, but
Right.
but yeah, I agree. I think Chris Pratt would be great. It'll be interesting to see if Star Lord is done after like all the Guardians are done, or if it's just select Guardians. Uh,
Yeah.
but that I mean that at the same time that doesn't mean they can't do DC stuff because Idris Elba
Right.
has done both.
Both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so be interesting to see. One show that I know a lot of people are excited about is Lanterns.
I'm excited about this one.
Okay, so
Green Lantern is a fun one.
okay, yeah. See, so I know very little about Green Lantern too, but I mean, I'm excited because other people are excited. If other people are excited, I'm like, okay, so it must be really good if other people are pumped about it. But it's going to revolve around the two most well-known members of the Green Lantern Corps, Hal Jordan and John Stewart, and they're going to investigate a mystery that's expected to play a big role in the main story of Chapter 1. And it's supposed to be very much in the vein of True Detective, a show that I have not seen, but I know is dearly, dearly loved.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll let you talk about this one because you're a Green Lantern fan. I know very little.
I have not seen True Detective, but I've heard all good things about it too. Yeah, Green Lantern is just one of those, like, heroes where like, the concept is really cool. Like, you get this ring and, like, whatever you think of or, like, feel, like, materializes out of it, and it can allow you to do some, like, amazing things. So, like, it kind of depends on the user. So,
Yeah,
like, if you're, like, really powerful, then you're someone who's, like, really smart and full of integrity and these
yeah.
sort of things. So it was with the green ring, at least.
And there's a
And
bunch of them, right? Like there's a bunch of different
yeah,
lanterns. It's not just like the one, like one.
yeah, they all deal with some sort of uh character trait,
Okay.
like, are kind of character trait slash emotions, because one of them I know is, like, anger. Like, you have to be very angry
Oh, okay.
to wield
Interesting.
this
So they
ring.
kind of represent, like, personify a trait, a characteristic.
Yeah, yeah, or an emotion. Like,
Okay. I'm excited for that. I didn't watch it. So I remember watching the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds, and I got like 30 minutes into it, dude. Here's the thing about me. I've talked about this before. I love movies. I watch movies to enjoy myself. I don't watch them to critique, and I find enjoyment out of most movies because if I'm going to spend 2 hours of my time watching this, I want to at least take something good away from it. You can count on one hand how many movies that I have actually stopped watching when I started them. Green Lantern was one of those movies, bro. Like 30 minutes in, I was like, this movie sucks. And I stopped. And I have not regretted watching it because I've just like, Ryan Reynolds has blasted that movie. So that's my only impression of Green Lantern. And I know that that's not Green Lantern because
Yeah, no,
people hated
definitely
that
not.
movie. And yeah, so I'm excited to get that.
I
The
had to
Lantern
force
show.
myself to sit through that movie because the first time I saw it, I did the same thing. I stopped watching 30 minutes in and started playing a game on my phone. And then I was like, I got to see what people are hating on. So I
Yeah.
forced myself, and I shouldn't have. I really shouldn't
It was
have.
as bad as you thought.
Yeah. But speaking of
Yeah.
the Green Lantern, the
Oh,
other colors like red is rage, orange is avarice or greed, yellow is fear, green is willpower, blue is hope, indigo is compassion, violet's love, black is death, and white is life.
interesting. That's dope. Okay. All right. The last show is Paradise Lost, and this is actually going to be a Wonder Woman prequel. It's going to explore the Amazons of I can always never pronounce this Themyscira before the birth of Diana, who becomes Wonder Woman. And it's actually described as a Game of Thrones ish story. I know nothing else about this. It just sounds cool, so I think it'll be. I think all these are going to be dope. I don't think any
Yeah.
of them are going to miss. I'm excited. Um, One thing that we alluded to, we got just a couple minutes left, so we're going to kind of fly through the rest of this here. But one thing that we alluded to at the beginning is that there is going to be room in DC Studios for some of the other stories that aren't tied into the main plot of the DC extended universe to still be
Right.
told. And that's going to be through something called Elseworlds. And Elseworlds is basically going to be a separate universe where stories outside the canon of the DCEU, like the Batman, that's going to be
Hmm.
continued, like the Joker films, and anything else that isn't going
Yeah.
to fit within. So,
Like their
uh,
video games as well. I read that their video
yep,
games will be included in that, which
yeah,
is pretty cool.
that's super cool. So, what's also cool about this is it's actually based on a comic publication imprint for DC where the same thing happened. Stories outside the canon of the main storyline for the comics were told. Uh, I think this will be great because it's going to just help clarify everything and label everything. Like everyone's going to know where everything fits, and there's not going to be question or debate as to it's not going to be like the Sonyverse for Marvel where we don't know
Right.
what the heck is tied in and what's not. Like or like you
Yep.
have the Netflix stuff for Marvel. Like we still don't know how much of that ties in. But for
Yep.
DC, you're not going to have that issue. You're gonna it's going to be all clearly compartmentalized, which I like that. I think that's a genius move.
Yeah. I hope they have a cool little like intro for those things in movies that say like Elseworlds
Oh
sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, like their own like thing. I think they will. That's actually super. That's a cool idea. Um,
Hey, TCU, 10%. Every movie you make. I get it.
yeah,
That was my
yeah,
idea.
yeah. That's all we got. You have to do all the like 99% of the rest of it, but we at least threw the idea out there. Um,
Yeah, yep.
so,
And feature our podcast in every interview you guys
please,
do.
we'll do it, bro. Please let us interview somebody.
Or
That'd
just
be
at least
so
send us an
fun.
email.
Yeah, right. Just start with that. Give us an email. Yeah, little plug. Continue to email us, people. We got one email. We're waiting for the second one. So final thoughts as we wrap up here. Um, Final thoughts. So first of all, like Gunn is going in pun absolutely intended, guns blazing into chapter one. Like this dude is bringing in heavy hitters. Like we already talked about some of the writers and directors. Another writer that he's got that he's bringing on who hasn't been confirmed about what he's writing on yet. They just know he's a writer and he's part of the team. But Drew Goddard, who wrote Cloverfield, Cabin in the Woods, which is being pretty well praised, The Martian, which was a great movie, and was a big writer on Daredevil for a while. Um, that's like that's a big name. I know he's got a lot of the comic book
Yeah.
teams actually on the staff. Dude is not messing around, and if we're being honest, truly, the DCEU will probably be more well planned out than the MCU when it's all said and done because the
Oh
DCEU
yeah.
has had the advantage of watching the MCU. And while they're not going to do it identical to the MCU, they have a blueprint to follow, and the MCU didn't know when they started what it was going to be. They there was
Right.
some thoughts, but it wasn't like anything was ever laid out. The DCEU has the advantage of like, hey, we know what we want this to be. We like Gunn said he has like 10 years planned out. So
Oh yeah.
dude is ready.
Yeah, dude is ready, and this kind of gives them more of an advantage to be like, okay, if this doesn't work out, we can roll this out right behind it,
Yep.
and
Yeah, I'm sure they
it's
have
gonna
backup
work.
plans.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm
Well,
so
Marvel probably doesn't. I mean, now they probably have
now they
backup
do.
plans,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Marvel I'm sure knows, like I'm sure they could tell us what's happening 10 years from now probably,
oh yeah,
like at least an idea of it. I'm sure they have it storyboarded somewhere.
yeah,
But yeah, at the beginning they didn't, which it still worked out because Marvel did a very good job of like quickly figuring out how to piece it together. But again, DC just has that advantage of coming in late and getting to kind of learn from any mistakes that Marvel might have made.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Speaking of, this is just the last thought that I have on this. We definitely know that DC is going to be much more adult focused as far as audience is concerned, because
Yeah,
it has been up to this point, which is both an advantage because like Marvel doesn't have that. I think they will because we know Deadpool's coming. It sounds like Daredevil might be TVMA, so hopefully there are some of
hmm
those projects for Marvel. I hope there are, but DC is not restricted by Disney, so they're just going to do what they want, which definitely a plus. But I'm also going to be curious to see if they'll still have projects that cater to younger audiences because one,
yeah,
those projects that are more family friendly are going to be much more far reaching. And at the end of the day, like comics, like kids read comics, kids watch
yeah,
animated shows. So like you're going to want to have stuff that kids are going to be able to watch. Like I'm going to want my son to be able to watch some of those projects. And if all of them are like, Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, like he's not going to be able to.
right.
Or at least I don't want him to. I'm not going to tell anybody else how to parent, but like I'm not going to have him watch that stuff or early on.
Yeah, I
So
mean, yeah, if you just follow by the standard like rules like PG-13 and TVMA, like no kids under like 13 are gonna be able to
right,
watch this
right,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I don't want to. I don't want my son to watch someone's head get sliced clean off in Suicide Squad when he's 10. Like you know what? We'll save that for a later date, buddy. So yeah, I'm just gonna be curious to see. I'm sure they will. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how much they'll have their stuff family friendly versus how much will be adult focused and what the balance
Yeah.
will be there. Because clearly, uh, as of recently, there's been a lot more of like adult focused stuff for DC. But yeah, Gunn has done both though, right? Like Gunn,
Yeah.
like
Guns
Guardians,
done both.
Guardians is
Guardians
like
is
more
very
family
yeah.
friendly. Uh, yeah, so I'm not saying that they're not going to. I'm just curious to see what that balance will be and if it's going to lean more heavily one way or the other. Who knows?
Right. I mean, with Gun, I think we might see a little bit more of like the family friendly side. I bet we will get like are some of the Marvel movies just strictly PG or are they all
I think
PG-13?
they're all PG-13. I could be wrong there,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I feel like we might like with the DCU, like we're gonna get PG-13 and R. Like it's gonna rotate back and forth between those and TVMA and
yeah, yep,
I don't think we'll ever see anything rated. I
like
would be
PG.
shocked honestly yeah. I'd be
Yeah, I don't
shocked to
think we
see
will.
PG-13 a little bit just because of what we know with it, but
Yeah,
James Gunn is good with humor and like getting all that out there. So
yeah. I think he'll make it work. But yeah, so gonna be interesting to see. But that's the podcast. That's the first Midwest DC podcast
there
that
we
we've
go.
done. And I can tell you it won't be the last time we talk about DC. I'm excited to get into this. We're obviously a ways off from when these projects are going to start, but yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's just going to be more content to consume, which will be great. So,
Yeah.
like we said, leave us an email. Give us your thoughts, your comments about how pumped you are about the start of or the reboot of the DCEU. Make sure you leave us a review. Make sure you subscribe to either the podcast, the YouTube, or both. And we appreciate each and every single one of you guys for your support and listening each and every week. We love you all. Hope you guys have a great start to your week. And we will see y'all next time. We're talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I'm so pumped.
Yep.
Peace out,
Super pumped.
nerds.